Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Homeless Left. I am your host, Matt Weinglass, and boy, do we have a great show for you today. Lots of action coming to you. The Homeless Left is a place where political castaways can gather around core principles and common sense. And we started this show because it is important that we have conversations with each other, even across the aisle with our fellow man and our fellow woman, and we come together, and it's okay to disagree on certain things, but we got to remember we are all on the same side. We all want the same things. We all want decent lives and people to be happy and to be taken care of and taking care of each other and success in this world. We have a common enemy, and that is the oligarchy. That is the two-party system, which is really a one-party system. And the sooner we realize this, the sooner we can come together and be stronger in numbers. And that's the thing that they fear the most, is that when we wake up and realize that we are all on the same side. So let's keep the conversation going today on The Homeless Left. Our co-host, if you didn't notice already, Niko Kiriakou, journalist. He is actually on assignment right now, so I'll be running the show today, but we were able to catch up with Niko last night. I had a great conversation with him. We covered some stuff about the Kennedy campaign, and let's get into that right now, and then we'll be with you a little bit later with our special guest, Mindy Robinson. So let's do the RFK Jr. update with Niko.
Hi, I'm Niko Kiriakou, here to give you the weekly updates about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign. So this week has been pretty full of action. We've got Joe Rogan interview. We've got a spat that's growing on Twitter about Peter Hotez involving Joe Rogan. We've got parts of, I believe, his Jordan Peterson interview were censored, Robert Kennedy's. We had someone calling him out for not having seatbelts in his van. We also had some new poll numbers come in, and I want to start out by showing you a couple of those. So basically, we've seen other polls wherein typically in the press them discuss Mr. Kennedy's poll numbers as being around 20%. Now on the Hill, we've said he's actually ranking higher than all the other major candidates now. This is a poll with a margin of error of about 2.5% and involved about 1,500 people. So we found here that the poll from The Economist and YouGov released Wednesday showed Kennedy was viewed favorably by 49% of respondents, giving him the highest net favorability rating of 19 points. He was viewed unfavorably by 30%. Meanwhile, by comparison, President Biden and former President Trump each had the second highest percentage of the respondents viewing them favorably, with 44% viewing them favorably. So that's pretty much a shock to a lot of people, and it's forcing the establishment to now really take him seriously. Kennedy also appeared in San Francisco on some local news channels, and he went to visit the homeless camps there. And he's talking directly about reinstating Section 8 and getting people the proper services they need to end homelessness in America. When's the last time we saw a presidential candidate doing that? I don't know. But he's also drumming on the peace drum, if you will, and going to give a historic anniversary of his father's or his uncle's most famous speech, the speech at American University known as the Peace Speech. And I wanted to just show you a couple clips, both of Robert Kennedy's plan to give his speech, his announcement of that speech, and also what JFK's speech really looked like, a little excerpt from that. And I think it's really shocking to see just how idealistic John F. Kennedy was. Some people even say that the reason why there's been so much Trump bashing was because he called out the military industrial complex when he said that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq during that famous presidential debate, and where he called out Jeb Bush and the Bush family for lying about that and getting us into an unnecessary war. They say at that point the weapons contractors had their crosshairs on him and to prevent him from being the president and returning to the presidency. Well, this is a tradition that really came in force here with JFK.
The United States, as the world knows, will never start a war. We do not want a war. We do not now expect a war. This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression. We shall be prepared if others wish it. We shall be alert to try to stop it. But we shall also do our part to build a world of peace where the weak are safe and the strong are just.
So I encourage people to listen to that speech. It's pretty incredible. He said he's going to stop the nuclear arms race. And of course, you know, he ends up getting killed and we become one of the biggest weapons. We probably already were, but a huge weapons manufacturer and a warmonger going around the world, toppling regimes and intervening in foreign countries. So now Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is taking up that scepter, and he's announced that he's going to give on the 60th anniversary, 10 days later, of JFK's speech on June 10th, 1963. He's going to be speaking at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire on June 20th at 7 p.m. That event's going to be live streamed, and I'm actually going to go see that event. So here's what he said this is going to be about. He posted this on his social media.
Hi, everybody, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. 60 years ago this month, my uncle, President John F. Kennedy, gave one of the most important speeches in his life and in American history. It was known as the Peace Speech at American University. And that speech led directly to the signing of the first major treaty of the nuclear age. In that speech, he outlined his vision, not just for peace in our time, but for peace in all times. On June 20th, in commemoration of that speech, I will deliver my first major policy speech of my presidential campaign. I will describe my vision for peace, for diplomacy, and how I will end our country's addiction to forever wars. I hope you'll join me at St. Anselm's College in Manchester, New Hampshire on June 20th at 7 p.m. For tickets and live stream information, go to Kennedy24.com. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm running for President of the United States, and I approve this message.
So, now I want to transition into talking a little bit about Kennedy's appearance on Joe Rogan.
Eisenhower, who was the outgoing president, gave what is probably the most important speech in American history, which was, where he warned against the military-industrial complex. I was at my uncle's inauguration. I was in Washington that day. I was a 6-year-old boy, and I was sitting on the stands behind him, in front of him during his inauguration. And he understood that. And 2 months later, the military and intelligence came to him and said, we got to invade Cuba. And he was like, I'm not going to Cuba, and I'm not going to let the military. And they said, well, we got all these Cubans trained, and they're going to go attack Castro. And he said, well, we can't, the U.S. government can't be doing that. We can't be attacking. I don't like what Castro's doing down there, but it's not the United States' job to dictate what kind of governments other countries have. And they said, well, as soon as they land, there's going to be a big revolution. Everybody's going to rise up and they're going to overthrow Castro. And he said, well, you can't use the U.S. military. And they ended up bringing those guys over with United Fruit boats. And in the middle of it, in the night, they came to him and said, they're getting wiped out on the beach and you need to send in the military and invade. And he said, we're not going to do it. And he realized they had been lying to him and trying to trick him. And he said, I want to take the CIA and shatter it into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. For the next 1,000 days of his presidency, he was at war with his military and intelligence apparatus. They tried to get him to go into Laos. He said no. They tried to get him to go into Vietnam with combat troops. They said that we need 250,000 combat troops. He refused. Everybody around him wanted him to go into Vietnam. In October of 1963, he heard that some of his Green Berets had been killed over there. And he said, I want a total casualty list from Vietnam. And his aide came to him and said, 75 Americans have died. He said, that's too many. And he signed that day a national security order ordering all troops out of Vietnam, U.S. troops. And then a month later, he was killed.
Great job, Niko. We're going to be checking in with him again later today with some more about Joe Rogan's show and what happened on that. We'll get into more of the controversial stuff. But as far as the big speech, that is tonight. And Niko will be covering that. And you guys, you should be watching this. Find a place to watch it. I'm not sure if it's going to be covered on mainstream, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. I don't know if they're going to be doing it. So just go and check this out. It's 4 p.m. Pacific time. I think 7 p.m. Eastern. So that's coming up very soon. So it's a big day. We wish Niko luck on the campaign trail. We're going to hear how it went next week when he's back with us. But in this topic, we are going to transition to what we're getting into today from the point of view of Hollywood, which is where we like to start the conversation here, because we are in entertainment. We are supposed to be about good storytelling, thoughtful engagement, coming from a place of truth and honesty and authenticity. We've seen Hollywood crumble over the last few years, and it's been quite a shock. I mean, just look at the left and how we have become this war party. It's crazy. I mean, you can hear Kennedy talking in that previous segment about how we used to look at war, and we used to say at the last resort would be when we would ever engage with military. And now look what we're doing at every turn. We are going into every country we can, and anyone who stands up against that is targeted and is canceled for whatever reason. We have to look at that too. So let's be a little more curious. Let's investigate, and let's know that we are coming from the same place of honesty and care and the well-being of our fellow man. With that said, let's get into the topic today. From the red carpet to red pilled, we have our main guest coming on. She's an actress with over 175 TV and film appearances. She's most known for films Range 15, Checkpoint, and You Can't Have It. She ran in the Republican primary for Nevada's 3rd Congressional District in the 2020 election, and now she runs a show called Conspiracy Truths on Rumble. Please welcome to the show, Mindy Robinson.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, Mindy, how are you?
Oh, it's just the end of the world when I'm an optimist, so.
It does feel like the end of the world sometimes. And it's nice to engage with people that are staying positive, because you really have to these days. And I love your energy, your smile. I know you talk about hard things. We talk about hard things, but we have to somehow find a way to keep positive and get up in the morning and seize the day still, right?
You know, I'm a prepper. I feel like my entire life I've been kind of prepping the back of my mind for some kind of zombie apocalypse. And then, it turns out to be pedophile communist. I did not have that on my apocalypse bingo card. But here we are. And I do feel like everything's insane. But at the same time, I am an optimist, because we can't go on like this. We can't go on as debt slaves to a central banking system. I mean, your first segment, we've been starting wars. And if you want to talk about Hollywood and the propaganda they push, I can't even watch an American war movie anymore. I cannot watch really good American soldiers and heroes dying for the central banking system, because we've started every war we've ever been into. And you just go back, you look at the false flags, you look at, they killed JFK over it. Do you know what Operation Northwoods is?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yes.
It was every military industrial complex scumbag, everyone signed it except JFK. And
That's
if you
right.
actually read it, it's horrifying. They were willing to kill Americans to start a war with Cuba so they could take over Cuba and rape it, basically. And they've been doing that forever.
His Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, he confessed that on his deathbed, I believe, that the plot to get into Cuba and how they were going to trick the American people into war. And then Kennedy said, no, we're not doing this. And look what happened to him.
And you know who did sign off on it? Johnson. Vietnam, we entered Vietnam on a lie. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was fake. It was completely fake to drag us and to get war powers from Congress. And who benefited from the Vietnam War? Certainly not the Vietnamese people. They poisoned them with Agent Orange. Their kids are deformed. They're still finding landmines. The only people that benefited were the people that made the weapons of war and the napalm and the Agent Orange and the tanks and the central banking system that lent the money. And this is why, you know, I can't watch a war movie anymore.
Yeah.
I can't. It breaks my heart.
I was having this conversation the other day with my fiance. We're like, we're watching some of these films that they used to be good. They used to challenge the military industrial complex. I think somewhere around, I don't know, maybe it was around like right after 9/11. They stopped being.
That's another
movies.
story.
I think that's the time we look at where they start being pro American imperialism and less about the problems with war. And you know, yes, you have these heroes we're supposed to invest in and the tragedies that are bestowed upon them. But yeah, like you said, it's like every one of these films seems to be amplifying the American imperialism and the idea that we are number one and we need to continue that messaging and the terrorism across the globe.
We are the terrorists. That's
we are
the terrorists. Yeah. And as a patriot, that has been the hardest thing for me to wrap my heart around. Really? Yeah. I mean, how can I watch Black Hawk Down? I mean, what's going on here? No wonder why people hate us, because we go over there and we blow up their kids and no one is ever held responsible. And that's, where are the liberals? You know, I'm a libertarian. I'm an isolationist. I don't believe in foreign aid to anybody. You want to donate to something because they have a tornado? Do it out of charity. It's a money laundering operation. There's so many problems. And I think the last 3 years, I've woken up a lot, but I think other people are too. I'm just reading from the comments on almost anything these days. I'm a tool of Putin because, you know, I don't want to protect, you know, Congress's money laundering operation and bioweapon labs that they admit to, but then they don't. They're worried Russia's going to get a hold of them, but wait, I thought they didn't exist. You know, this is the game that they're playing. And I think the House of Cards is falling. I think they're panicking. I mean, the fact that they have to censor people like me. I was one of the people that the federal government told Twitter to ban for life because I'm dangerous. How fragile is this charade that, you know, my dumb ass, you know, in Vegas can blow holes through the government story because it's not well put together. And it's interesting. The news is dead. There's no more journalism. It comes down to independent journalists like me, which is what I do more now than Hollywood because I cut up my SAG card. Honestly, that's a whole other deal. Wow. You know, I do independent film. You know, my union was supposed to do certain things for me and they wanted to force vaccinate me. Get out of here. Get out of here. And they don't get my money. They try to, every like half year, like, you got to pay this. Go to hell. Go to hell. Man, you know,
I mean, you know, the things that you're touching on, I mean, these are conversations that we could have easily have. And for me, coming from the left, coming from a place of, you know, compassion, and we're supposed to be anti-war and we're supposed to challenge, you know, institutions like the CIA and the FBI, and we're supposed to be skeptical and we're supposed to be curious. And we come from those values. All of that went out the window. And it's hard for me even just to sit here. It's like bittersweet because I'm hearing somebody who I think you and I would probably, even years back, we might have disagreed with a few things. You're saying things that we used to say, but I'm seeing my fellow lefty, they're not saying these things. They think the opposite now. And I feel almost nervous. Like if they hear us talk, they're going to be like, that's like you said, that's pro-Putin propaganda, or that's this.
I've been called worse.
They're not thinking anymore. We used to like question stuff, question authority. That used to be a value of the left. So we're kind of stranded over here. So I like having these conversations. Unfortunately, I have to say this. Let's hold off. We can dig more into those issues a little bit later when we go exclusively on Rumble, because you guys are watching us on YouTube. You know that we've had a strike already and we don't want to get another one. So let's take a step back right now. I like your origin story, Mindy. I like that you have been one of the people I met a little while back, and I realized you were just a go-getter. You were somebody who just got involved with projects that were just moving at all times. You were never sitting still. I realized that when we first met, and I think we were on a set of an MTV pilot a few years back, and we started talking, and then you were showing me all these projects you were doing. We had like a break, and then I looked you up on IMDb that day, and you were listed at number 13. I was like,
not for being famous. It was really just the amount of project that I was doing at once. Because the thing was, like, I didn't want to turn anything down. Because you never know what's going to be hit. You don't know if the pilot's going to take off, and you don't know if it's not going to go anywhere.
Mhm.
And how often do we see people in our industry where they would like land a gig and then that they would rest their laurels on it, and then it never came to fruition or it never got released, and they wasted how much time? So I didn't say no to a lot of stuff. I mean, it has to be pretty bad. There were things like I have to, like, I ain't doing that. But, there weren't a lot of females that could do comedy. I could improv. That's why I did 40 plus network reality shows. I nailed every reality show audition I ever did. And as you know, they only ever want you to do one. They don't want you to, what I mean, look like you're an actor. And so I did them all at once, none of them out. And then they all came out at once. And and the thing is, in our business, is people get into it for the wrong reasons. They want to be rich and famous. And that doesn't happen often. You know what I mean? And that wasn't what it was about for me. If you work hard, you can make it in the industry. Yeah. And to touch on it, I left LA a long time. I've been living in Vegas for about 10 years now. But there's two things you have to remember that you're surrounded by. You're surrounded by people that are encouraged to be radical leftists from the business, the industry, the stuff like that. And the other thing is they're amplified. The radical left is a minority, but they're an amplified minority. Most people are like me and you. We're in the middle. And I'm a bit of a right winger, but I hate the government. You know what I mean? Like I'm definitely a libertarian. The more you go right, the more you go toward anarchy. And the more you go left, the more you become a fascist because you want to rule everything. Where I'm like, who the hell cares anymore? I don't care about half the crap. You know what I mean? Laws are only good as they are enforceable.
Well, I have a different theory I've been playing with, because here's one thing that we've kind of noticed on the left is that okay, and I'll give you an example. So like you have these progressive candidates that have gotten, they ran on anti-war, they ran on healthcare for all, they ran on these values that we believed in on the left, like AOC, the Squad, Bernie, and we got behind them. We gave them money, we supported them, and then they didn't do those things. And so when we started saying you guys are not doing the things you said, we're actually out lefting the left. So it's I know this gets confusing, but like when we look at it from our point of view, we're like, you didn't do the things you were supposed to, and now you're taking orders from the corporatists that actually run this government. So they're not actually radical left, they're radical corporatist extremists. But we are kind of stranded out here saying, what happened to healthcare? What happened to anti-war? What happened to living wage? What happened to, these things that were important? And so it's really, I think it's just a big mishmash of stuff. And I think that what we have to do is come together as a real populist movement and say, we're all together fighting up. So maybe we're all like down and we're saying we're fighting up, and maybe left and right is just theater. I don't know. That's just an idea.
Well, I actually went to college for this, if you can freaking believe it. I actually majored in American history and political science. I got both degrees. I don't know why. I'm just basically overqualified to argue with people on Facebook now and get told to read a lot of history books. It's not what I do. But the whole point of being a liberal and a conservative is there were different ways to find the same solutions. A conservative, or a real conservative, is supposed to want small, limited government, less government in our lives. And a liberal is supposed to want all the froofy things, the bleeding heart liberal. Like, I don't know where the bleeding heart liberals went. Everything is upside down these days. Me and you would probably have arguments where I don't believe in healthcare for all. This should be like minimal healthcare. We would have it. We could actually have the money for healthcare if we didn't have wars, if we didn't have all this other crap, and if we weren't getting robbed by our own government. But for me, we've got to fix that first. I want to end the Fed. I want to do a lot of things. And honestly, if the federal government collapsed in on itself tomorrow, I would be a happy girl. The only difference is they're going to try to reset because it's going to fail. That's why, look at how they're behaving. It's called looting the treasury. It's what you do before a government caves in on itself. They're trying to get everything they can, send it overseas back to themselves, which they've been doing, but now they're just out of control. You got people in Ukraine, like the officials are driving around in whips and Lamborghinis. And, we had natural disasters here and they didn't give a shit. How many trains have to derail with poisonous toxins on it? Don't want to take care of that. 20,000 cows blew up, like that's normal. We're clearly under attack. We've been taken over by a foreign entity. And I'd like to see it collapse, quite honestly. And they're going to try to reset us into debt slavery. And I think this is our opportunity to reset them and go on a barter system and go back to gold and silver. It's very doable.
So I'll say this. There's a lot of stuff you said I agree with. Some of it I would like to challenge.
You'll get there, trust me.
I would like to
God,
challenge,
screw the
but
government.
I'll challenge you this because we don't need to get into the nitty gritty right now. Again, I think we should wait till we're just on Rumble. But I'll say the overall, just so you know where we're coming from the abandoned left or the homeless left or whatever we're calling ourselves. We have these values to help our fellow man, and I feel like a lot of these issues that we would generally want to give the benefit of the doubt to the person, that issue that's important to them, whether it was Black Lives Matter, whether it's LGBT, there's a lot of issues out there that I feel have been hijacked by the corporatists, by the establishment. And what it's doing is it's pitting us against you. So I would just ask you to if you're this, I guess is the rule I like to follow is always punch up, never punch down. So even when we see somebody that's like, we're so angry because they're doing something that we know is not helpful to society, but we're like, is it their fault or is it the thing controlling them? Because maybe they're starting from actually a good place. And so that's just the liberal heart in me. That's the bleeding heart liberal you're talking about. That's me. And I'm like, I'm still
a right-wing asshole. I'm not gonna lie. Like that's just a different mindset. It is interesting. The goal is the same. I would like to think so.
That's okay. But we can have that debate.
Look at the LGBT movement. I don't care if people are gay. I don't care what people do in their homes. The only thing I care about is what they do in front of children, because as a society, we need to protect them. I
think we need to take a step back and take one thing at a time, which I feel like how can we engage and start a conversation about corruption, about corporate capture, about that the two-party system is really an oligarchy. Can we start with that? System.
Well, you think you're homeless? I mean, do you think Republican voters are being represented by anyone? And I could count on my hand. Jim Jordan, Rand Paul. You've really got to reach for people that are actually saying and doing something. The GOP doesn't represent their people either. No one in our government is representing any of the people. They represent the central banking system. They represent the globalist. They represent Big Pharma. They represent, and those are all the same people. Those are they're all the same 8 families that own everything. And that's who our government works for. And until we come together and stop black versus white and left versus, right, until we come together and say, we are getting robbed.
Yeah.
We are getting robbed by our own government. So the government just tried to kill us. We'll talk about that on Rumble. We're all looking at each other like, is anyone going to snap at this? Like, I'm pretty sure the government just tried to kill everybody. So let's bring it back. let's bring it back to Hollywood. When you got the idea to run for, I guess it was in Nevada, I ran for Congress as a Republican, and then I ran for a state office as a Libertarian. Not that our votes matter, but
not that our votes matter. So when you got that idea, did you know at the time that you were putting your career on the line, that relationships were going to be suffering, or how did that look to you?
You've met me. I don't give a shit what people think about me. I can't live that life. I've never cared what people thought about me, ever. And I was already talking politics. From the get-go, and I know it cost me work. Like, I was hired on a movie with like my heroes, like all these Star Trek people were attached, and they fired me because of my politics, because loving and tolerant, right? And it is what it is. But I ran for Congress because, I'm politically active. I'm like, well, who's running for my district? Let me get behind them. I've got a huge social media base. Let me help them. And the person was a wife beater. He'd beat up 3 women. I knew of a 4th instance where he punched his wife in the face in the bar. I knew the day, I knew the bar, I knew the time. He beat up 3 strangers in a bar. He was running $1 million Medicare scam in Atlanta using strippers and homeless people, robbing them. And that was the number one choice that I was supposed to get behind. That or the Democrat that was been robbing us the whole time anyway. The Democrat had like 14 houses, 3 planes. I mean, they're really one of us. And so I'm like, this is bullshit that this is even our choice. So I ran. And watching the GOP bury me, because I represented the people. It wasn't just Republican voters. It was the independents. It was the libertarians. It was classic liberals. Everyone was behind me. I was the most popular on paper. But the GOP, Kevin McCarthy, gave that wife beater $500,000 to win the primary. And of course, he loses to the female Democrat, who we're still getting screwed by. And that's when I'm like, that was when I first realized the problem is not left versus right. It's DC versus us. And that kind of changed my entire outlet. And people didn't believe me right then. I'm like, the GOP, okay. And then, you know, when you see what happened with everything else that unrolled out the last 3 years, people are like, oh my God, it's a one-party system. And the only people making out are the criminals in DC. And my God, are they robbing us? My God. I'm pretty sure our government would kill us for like nothing. You know, it's really disgusting when you look at how you can't get toxins out of baby formula. Like the things like how out of control is our entire food system, the plastics in my water bottle are killing me. More people die from plastics coming off their food containers and into their bodies and causing cancer. You know, my dad died from a non-genetic form of cancer, probably from the trash in his food. My mom died too from, you know, shit in their food.
Wow.
And now, you know, I'm the right-wing asshole, but I'm the one that's like trying to protect the environment. I'm the one that cares about whales washing up dead. I'm the one that realizes green energy isn't green. It's not. The science isn't there yet. What the hell are you guys doing? I'd love it to be, but it's not. There isn't enough material in the world to have everyone go solar. So, and I know damn well that the problem is, you know, Indonesia and China dumping garbage into rivers and poisoning an entire ocean, and not my pickup truck that runs on gas. Why am I closer to being a 1970s hippie than the hippies claim to be nowadays? You know, why am I the one that, you know, I'm buying organic, I'm trying to eat farm to table, I'm trying to get all the preservatives out of my system. I'm more classic liberal than a regular liberal these days. And it is bizarre. The world is upside down. And I'd like to know what the hell?
You know, I can second that. And even me personally, I had a very, like almost a tear-jerking moment when I was out in DC at the anti-war protest a few months ago. We were protesting the war, and like you had, and it was a much older crowd. I was hoping a younger crowd would be there, but it was older. And with that, you were like, okay, so we got like the hippie crowd from like this that used to protest, you know, the 60s. And there was actually a dude out there and a girl. They were singing, they were doing some Peter, Paul and Mary songs, and it was like, it was giving me chills. And I was hearing them sing, and then I looked around and I realized there were no liberals there. These were all like right wings, libertarians. We had a lot of independents, a lot of non-affiliates.
Believe it or not, most people are against starting war for profit. Can you believe it?
But I was like, that Peter, Paul, Mary song, like where have all the flowers gone? And like, you know, all of this, how many roads and all these songs that like, I was like, didn't liberals used to sing these songs? And, you know, the challenging Vietnam and challenging the military industrial complex. And it's like, where did they go? And I was sad. But what can we do? I guess we have to have these conversations. It's okay. We can disagree on some stuff, and that's fine. But we need to know that we have a common enemy. It's the oligarchy. And the moment you had, Mindy, that you talked about, as far as that aha moment where you're like, there is neither party has candidates, has people representing us. So what do we do about that? Do we go third party? Do we go independent? We found
well, one thing, stop giving these people money. I laugh now. Even though I've been a registered libertarian for like a while now, I still get these text messages like, "Oh, please donate to some Republican from some state I don't live in." Like, oh, fuck off. Fuck off. The GOP should never get another dime. They should never get another, and neither should the DNC. Stop giving these people money. We're not voting our way out of voter fraud, and none of our votes matter. And I think the most disgusting part is there are like radical leftists that celebrate the 2020, whatever the hell you want to call it. That's what got me kicked off Twitter. We won't talk about it on YouTube. But can we talk about the boxes of Biden ballots falling from the sky at 2 a.m.? I live in one of those states where they stopped counting.
Actually, I want to talk about a topic of election fraud with you, an overall topic, because I've been actually politically active. I actually worked for the Democratic Party for 20 years, believe it or not. I have some stories for you about election fraud. So we can go back and we can see it's always good to look at stuff in context. So like good instinct. Let's not get into it right now. We'll get into it on the second half. If you guys are with us right now on YouTube, we're going to be wrapping the show up here in a second and just going primarily over to Rumble. I actually have one more question for you before we end the YouTube feed. Mindy, can you tell me what are you, as far as when you look ahead, do you see yourself focusing on politics as number one right now? Activism number one has Hollywood taken the back seat, or do you see yourself still engaging in the entertainment industry and doing like projects that mean something that you can be proud of being part of? Where do you see your trajectory?
Well, I'm not doing, I was literally filming once to 3 times a week when I lived in Hollywood. I would do anything. I would do background roles because it paid more. And I would get bumped up and get speaking lines all the time. I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
Now I'm being pickier. I haven't auditioned years. If people want me, and there are still conservative producers who like to make money and who believe in what I say, because not everyone in Hollywood, that's the other misconception.
Mm-hmm.
When you see someone who doesn't talk about politics in Hollywood, they probably lean right, and they just can't. And you won't believe how many like famous fucking people I know will say like they are one of me, or they agree with everything I say. They just can't say anything. But whatever. But those people will hire me. I do lots of movies for John Schneider. He's a wonderful patriot. I think we did like 5 or 6 movies together already. Like I just finished a Western. I'm getting work, but it's direct hire. People are going to hire me for some character I've probably already done, and that just makes my life easier. I'm not trucking across town, doing crappy auditions. And God knows they're not going to use people like me in a commercial anymore. I need blue hair to be 300 pounds. I can't remember the last time I saw a straight white person on TV. Where do they go? Like, right. I mean, you could watch an entire commercial break, and if you didn't live here and you just watch TV in America, you would think white people were like an ultra 5% minority, because corporations are afraid to be called racist if they put like one white person in. Like, last I checked, we still make up more than 50%. What the hell? Oh, I saw a white trash bag commercial. That was my favorite. I'm like, wow, white people. And I realized it was for white trash bags. I'm like, whatever. Stupid.
Well, here we are. We're the Homeless Left here. We're very happy to have Mindy Robinson with us, talking the hard stuff, talking the hard issues. We're talking Hollywood. We're talking politics. We're talking the left and right and how they've crumbled, and what do we do as people now? Challenging power. What do we do? How do we have these conversations? So we're trying to have them right now. Mindy, thanks for being on the show right now. We're going to actually take a little break, and we're going to have a little transition over to Rumble exclusively, and we're going to pick up the conversation where we left. I'm going to just plug your thing right now so people know that are on YouTube. They can follow you at it's iHeartMindy on social.
I know it's a corny name, but I couldn't change it. I was going to lose my verification.
It's
now
okay.
I have a stupid old model name.
It works. And then your Rumble channel, which I want to plug as well. This is American AF Mindy. So look for that, guys. And thanks for being with us. Mindy, we're going to check in with you in a few. So guys, stay with us. We're going to move over to Rumble.
Uncensored. I can't wait. Let's do it.
In just a few minutes. Okay. Thanks, Mindy. We'll talk to you in a couple minutes. Okay. Thanks. That's Mindy Robinson, guys. We're pushing the envelope here on YouTube. We're having challenging discussions. Some of these issues we should be getting into in a lot greater context, greater thought. I know a lot of people don't want to have those types of conversations right now. We want to just end them before they start. We want to try to have them, and that's why we're doing it here. And you know what? Like, if you guys have comments, questions, you can certainly chime in. Go over to Rumble now, and please get on our channel, The Homeless Left, and we're going to pick it up there soon. I'll just say one last thing about Sherwood Players, because this has been an incredible community. We love all the support. We're not trying to be a political organization. We're just a group of performers and artists and producers and actors who want to tell good stories, who want to be proud of their work, and we want to be against censorship. And that's not political to say, guys. That's not. To say we're against censorship means we're for people having their voices heard. We don't have to agree with everyone about everything and cancel all the people that disagree. If we did that, guess what? We'd all be out of work, because Hollywood is about storytelling. Storytelling involves conflict. You can't have conflict without disagreement. So no, we're not all robots. We're not all going to be wired the same, or you're out of the club. We all get to have our opinions heard, and if anybody says anything threatening or pushing violence, then there's a legal system in place to deal with that. But as far as having our voices heard on social media, on these platforms, we have to be for that, and that's what we do here at Sherwood. So thank you guys, Sherwood Players, for being here. And if you guys are stumbling on our channel for the first time, know that we are a big community of actors and artists in LA. You can follow us on all platforms at Sherwood Players. You can go to our website, sherwoodplayers.com. Also, SPIFF.live just opened up. That's our new festival website for our 3rd annual International Film Festival, SPIFF. We go up in December. Top films, short films around the world. Submit now on spit.live. That's it for now on YouTube. Stay with us, guys. You can come over and join us on Rumble very soon. I'm Matt Weinglass. Take care. We'll talk to you in just a moment.